All right, let's talk about something really cool. How do you take a super simple, kind of vague request and turn it into a full-blown animated series? We're going to break down that whole creative journey, from a tiny spark of an idea all the way to a pilot concept. So, let's get into it.
Okay, so here it is. This is our starting point. I mean, look at it. A new cartoon for kids. Give me session one. It's so simple, right? A little direct, maybe even a bit vague. But honestly, this is where the magic happens. Inside these few words, there's a whole universe just waiting to be born. Our job? It's to figure out how to unlock it. And that starts by asking the right questions. And that's a huge question, isn't it? You've got this blank page, and someone just asked you to invent a whole world. It can feel kind of overwhelming for sure. But, like any massive project, the secret is just to break it down. You gotta find the first piece of the puzzle.
So that little request we saw, that's our creative spark. It's like the starting gun for this huge race of imagination. But the first part of that race, it's not about drawing or writing dialogue. Nope. The very first thing we have to do is figure out what the request is really asking for. We have to decode the brief. You see, every creative brief, no matter how short, has two layers. There's what's written down, and then there's everything that's not written down. The real work, the fun part, starts when you start digging into every single word to find out, okay, what are our rules, what are our limitations, and even more exciting, where are the hidden opportunities? Let's start with the biggest piece of the puzzle right here, the audience. The prompt says, a new cartoon for kids. Now on the surface, that sounds super straightforward, but this is actually the single most important question we have to nail down. Because which kids are we talking about? Kids isn't one audience, right? It's this huge, massive range of ages and interests. A show you'd make for a 4-year-old is going to be totally, fundamentally different from a show for a 12-year-old. So figuring this out, this is our first big decision. And it's a huge one.
And I mean, the difference is just night and day. If you're talking about preschoolers, you're thinking simple stories, maybe some learning, lots of bright colors. But for preteens, they're ready for complicated characters, stories that continue from one episode to the next, and way more sophisticated humor. The choice you make right here is going to change literally everything about the show you're about to create.
Okay, so let's grab the next clue from our brief. With different stories. This little phrase tells us all about the show's format. It's a hint about how we're supposed to structure the narrative, episode by episode.
And this leads to another massive creative choice. What does different stories actually mean? Does it mean it's episodic, where every single episode is its own little self-contained adventure? You can watch them in any order. Or does it mean serialized, where there's one big story that unfolds across the whole season, rewarding the people who tune in every single week? And now for our last big rule from the brief. I need them short. You might not think about it this way, but the length of an episode is an incredibly powerful creative tool. It completely controls the pacing, how complicated your story can be, and even the kinds of jokes you can get away with.
Think about it. Each runtime opens up a totally different world of storytelling. 5 minutes? Perfect for a quick joke, a visual gag, maybe a simple lesson. 11 minutes? That's kind of the gold standard for kids' comedy and adventure. It's enough time for one solid story. But 22 minutes? Now you're talking. You've got room for a main plot, a side plot, and real, honest-to-goodness character growth.
All right, so once we've decoded that brief and locked in our big three, our target audience, our format, and our episode length, now the real fun can start. Now we get to actually build the world by asking those huge foundational questions. First things first, what is the big idea? What's the hook? Is it something like, what if your toys came to life when you left the room? Or maybe, what if a family of superheroes had to pretend to be normal? This is that unique what-if question that's going to make your show pop. Next up, and this might be the most important question of them all, who's our hero? Who are we following? Who do we, the audience, fall in love with? A great main character needs to be relatable, they need to be interesting, and they have to want something. We see the whole world through their eyes, so we got to create someone that kids will actually want to cheer for. And once you know who your hero is, you have to figure out where they are. What is their world? Is it a magical land filled with candy castles? A super high-tech future city? Or maybe it's just a normal-looking middle school that just happens to have a huge secret in the basement. Setting the rules and the vibe of this place is totally essential to make it feel real and fun to explore. So, what's the show's vibe?
How does it feel to watch it? Is it a silly, laugh-out-loud comedy? Is it a thrilling, high-stakes adventure? Maybe a spooky mystery? Or is it something more gentle and educational? The tone is basically the emotional flavor of the whole show. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. What makes this show different? What makes it special? Is it the art style that looks like nothing else on TV? Is it a really specific, quirky sense of humor? A super powerful message? This is your show's secret sauce, the one thing that's going to make people remember it. Okay, so our world is coming together, our characters are starting to feel real. Now we can finally tackle that last part of the brief. We have to plan out the entire first season. This is where we shift gears from just big, dreamy ideas to a real, practical, episode-by-episode plan.
Remember, the original request was specific. Give me session 1. So that means we can't just hand over a cool idea and a few character sketches. We need to show them what an entire season of this cartoon is actually going to look and feel like.
And look, planning a whole season, it's not magic. It's really just a system. First, you nail down that core concept we talked about. Then, you just brainstorm a giant list of potential episodes. No bad ideas. After that, you build what's called a story engine. Basically, that's the repeatable thing in your show that kicks off a new story every week. A perfect example is Phineas and Ferb asking, "Hey, what are we going to do today?" That's their story engine. And finally, you want to map out how your characters are going to change from the first episode to the last.
And there you have it. We've literally gone on this entire journey. We started with just a couple of lines of text, and now we've got a full-on blueprint for a whole season of a brand new animated show.
So let's just quickly recap that whole process. It all starts with the brief. You have to decode it to find your core ingredients, the audience, the format, and the runtime. Then you ask all those big, fun, creative questions to define your idea, your heroes, and their world. And once you have all that, you build the framework for your season.
It's pretty amazing when you stop and think about it, right? Every classic cartoon you've ever loved, every character you grew up with, every one of those amazing worlds, every single one of them started just like this, with a few simple words, a tiny little spark.
So, that leaves us with just one last question, and this one's for you. If you were handed that same blank page, what story would you tell?